giving thanks for the nation's farmers who keep us fed 3 times a day. Coming up on this episode of Grow, we'll hear from some farm kids what they're thankful for. Plus, Trump wants to dump the TPP, a trade deal many Nebraska farmers support. Farmers say trade, like a recent mission to China, means millions of dollars for rural communities. We'll talk to some popcorn growers about that trip. Plus, we wrap up our series on the grain of rural Nebraska with a farm kid revitalizing a small town. It's time to grow. Ditching the deal. Consider the TPP DOA. President-elect Donald Trump says that Asian free trade deal will be dead on day 1 of his administration.
On trade, I am going to issue our notification of intent to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a potential disaster for our country. Instead, we will negotiate fair bilateral trade deals that bring jobs and industry back onto American shores.
And while the new president talks tough on trade, farmers say trade deals are a surefire way to bring millions of dollars back to the country. A Nebraska Farm Bureau analysis finds TPP could have a $12 million impact in Custer County and nearly $6 million in Clay County. And sticking with the subject of trade, one country not involved in TPP, China. But Nebraska businesses recently signed 9 deals to ship more beef and pork and also a snack enjoyed at the movies. Here's more.
This is our popcorn that's being produced in Shanghai.
A snack Americans love and Nebraska farmers grow is headed in greater volume to China.
As the middle class grows, they look for American-type snack items and trying to get our products sold into their market is something that we think is a great opportunity for us. Nebraska farmers Daryl Honeycutt and Norm Krug are just back from China, where it didn't hurt. They were traveling with the governor. That means something to them, and it is important and helps you to do business over there. The trade mission comes as China prepares to lift a 12-year ban on U.S. beef. And while laying the groundwork for that, Nebraska signed 9 agreements, including one sending millions of pounds of bulk popcorn overseas and toured a plant that will pop and package it.
We were able to put together a plant that's very high in food safety, and the Chinese are concerned about that.
And Nebraska is sharing its know-how with plans to build a model farm that could bring business for Nebraska ag equipment makers. Where there would be some Nebraska equipment like pivots or grain bins on that. And deeper than dollars, these farmers say it's about relationships. But to know that it came from a specific farmer, to know the farmer, is really beneficial.
One more opportunity to have influence on others by trading.
So Chinese consumers who pick up a bag labeled
Happy Pop
are eating a snack grown by happy farmers like these.
Promote our local communities and farmers, and in general, it's a great thing.
With low commodity prices, how can farmers remain profitable? University of Nebraska economics experts are hitting the road with information aimed at producers. The Market Journal Roadshow will be in Kearney, Sidney, Norfolk, and Lincoln. The Kearney event will be Monday starting at 1 p.m. at the Holiday Inn. Speakers include Tina Barrett, Director of Nebraska Farm Business, and Al Dutcher, Extension Climatologist. And we're here at Grand Island Northwest this week, where FFA kids organized a career fair. From broadcasting to precision agriculture, military, farm credit, just some of the industries represented at this career fair. It was open to all kids at Grand Island Northwest, organized by the FBLA and FFA, and farm kids were especially interested in their career opportunities.
Yeah, I want to study agriculture, hopefully at UNL, and come back and farm or stay somewhere in the ag business.
And throughout the program tonight, we will hear from some of the FFA kids here about what they're thankful for on this Thanksgiving weekend. A local natural resources district apparently falling victim to hackers. Hackers were able to break into the Central Platte NRD's computer system, but the district says they don't think anyone's identity was compromised. The district's general manager says it looks like the hackers did not get into the database with social security numbers, names, or addresses. They have hired experts to determine what data the hackers were able to access. The report is expected sometime in mid-December. An unusual story out of southeast Nebraska. If you're going to fire somebody who's hauling corn, doing it by text message, probably not the way to go. Authorities say 36-year-old Darren Walp of Pennsylvania was driving a load of corn when he got a text saying he was fired. He was driving from Reynolds, Nebraska to Hanover, Kansas, according to court records, when he learned he'd been canned. He stopped his truck on Highway 8 near Odell and opened the bottom hatch on his grain truck, dumping 1,000 bushels. The driver now charged with felony criminal mischief and related charges. And now an update on a report of horse neglect. Tommy Leach is charged in Merritt County. Meanwhile, the horses he's accused of neglecting are finding new homes through the Central Nebraska Humane Society. They say they're happy to work with law enforcement and the courts to move these cases forward.
Being ag presents some issues, but what's going on in some farm families or people that are taking these larger animals on is just as horrible as what can be going on with companion animals.
Detloff says 1 out of the 5 horses seized in this case is still up for adoption. She says they've relied on donations to take care of the animals and may have to build a shed to house future livestock. With harvest complete, experts say don't let compaction keep you from grazing cattle on corn stalks. Extension educator Jenny Rees says grazing removes kernels lost during harvest, reducing volunteer corn the following year, and has benefits as a livestock feed. But many corn stalks are left ungrazed. Nebraska Extension research shows even with muddy conditions, grazing actually increased subsequent soybean yields and had no negative impact because of compaction when it comes to corn yields. Small-scale livestock operations can take advantage of a new CRP program. The USDA recently announced a new conservation reserve program. It's tailored for small-scale grazing operations of 100 head or less and can enroll up to 200 acres per farm. The deadline is coming soon. When a cattle ranch buys a feed yard, well, they're sure to learn some lessons. Here's a report from the American Angus Association from the Sandhills of Nebraska.
When the Rex Ranch got into the feeding business, they learned more about their cattle. But rather than change their focus, it only intensified it.
We've had a long-term view of it for a long time. I've been with the company for 20-some years down in Florida and now up at our Nebraska operation. And we've basically, for several years, before we ever owned a feed yard, we viewed what is the value of that calf to the next customer. And the only way to view that is to think past him to the packer.
Genetic improvements are apparent even after just one interval. That allows the ranch to be responsive with its breeding program.
What we want to raise is a cow that can survive and produce and thrive in our environment. And after we have that, because it doesn't matter how good he was going to be, okay? So we've got to have a calf first. But after that, then we look for all the post traits we get, and they're fairly equally weighted in our system.
They select for increasing carcass weight, ribeye, and marbling. But the cattleman knows management plays an important role too.
As we've owned a feed yard, we've really focused on trying to figure out what really adds value in the chain, not smoke and mirrors. And the other things that we found out is cattle from different areas feed differently. You have to tailor your management, your ration. You have to be willing to look at different ways and experiment with different ways to get the most out of what the genetics that they have in them.
Ramsey says they can fit the cow herd to the environment and still have cattle that excel in the feed yard and on the rail. I'm Bob Cervera.
And on this Thanksgiving weekend, more turkeys could be coming from Nebraska. 3 industrial park parcels in Beatrice will soon be used to hatch turkeys. The city of Beatrice approved the $60,000 sale of the Canadian company Hybrid Turkeys. The company says it plans on having the $6 million hatchery running by next July. According to officials, once the turkeys hatch, they'll be vaccinated and sent to growing operations around the U.S. within 24 hours of being born. Later in the show, we'll talk about what it costs to put that turkey dinner on your table this past weekend. Up next, we wrap up our series on the grain of rural Nebraska. Before we get to that, we'll hear from some FFA kids here at Grand Island Northwest about what they're thankful for.
Hi, I'm Alex Stoker, and this Thanksgiving I'm thankful for Nebraska beef.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Witt, and I'm thankful for family and opportunities that God's given me.
Hi, I'm Jackie Johnson, and I'm thankful for growing up on a ranch and showing cattle.